Welcome everyone to the TermSheetBattle DTU 2012. My name is Monika Luniewska and I'm Innovation Agent at DTU Fotonik. And in my everyday job, I work with high-tech research projects and I help them to get it commercialized, to make a spin-off company or to make it licensed to industry. As some of you might know, I'm also quite active in Copenhagen startup community, where 90–95% are mostly IT, web, online services and projects. So one thing that I can tell you from my experience, these are quite different worlds, and the things that we do down here, they are not so popular to a regular startup person who goes through some startup tech blogs and reads how to be the best, the top leader, or how to fail fast when you start your own company. What we do at DTU, it takes years to develop a prototype. It takes tens of millions of Danish krona, and it also takes very skilled people. And these people, they are not natural-born entrepreneurs in most cases. They don't like to go out to events. They wouldn't chat with random people about their technologies. And they are not very easy to sell on the market. And
thanks, Monika.
The same concerns the marketing. Who in the room is a researcher or scientist? Okay, how many of you researchers and scientists use Twitter? How many posted anything to your Facebook account within the last month? Okay, slightly better. But as you can see, first step in starting our companies is not to make a website and test it on your customer. No, first step is to find competent people who know the right industries and have connections so that they can actually convince owner of a factory to stop their production line for a couple of hours and let us take out some little component from under our microscope and put it into their production line and see if it works and if it works better. So it's different reality and different network and different process. And finally, when we speak about university inventions, there is also IP-intensive areas, and yeah, there is more to fight about. Since researchers develop products which are born from public money, then we have to be very careful about how we distribute this IP around companies which are interested in it. So yes, this is our world, high-tech research spin-offs. And today you will hear about the commercialization process of one of our technologies, which will stay anonymous today. Some of you may, however, figure out which project we are talking about. And we have collected a fantastic team to share with you their insights from this kind of experiences. And maybe they should introduce themselves. Let me start with my colleague, Jes.
Yeah, hello. So, my name is Broeng, and I'll be playing the role of the founder. So, I'm acting as a researcher here at DTU, from DTU Fotonik. I'm part of a research team of 4 people, with an old professor, a guy like myself with around 10 years experience, and a PhD student that we think is very bright and want to jump out in this company. So, we're dreaming about starting up a company, and we have a lead customer that is interested in the technology, but hasn't really paid any money for us yet. So, I think that's quite a lot like my own background. I did a PhD here from DTU around 15 years ago. I made some inventions in optical fibers together with Anders Bjarkø. And we spun out from DTU around 2000. We got an investor, NKT. At that time, NKT had a very tough lawyer and a very good business guy that I was opposing. And the lawyer was Søren Holmark, so I'm happy you're on my side of the table today. And the business guy who was also the first CEO of our company, actually running 3 companies at that time, that was Ole Kring. So, hi. Yeah, and now I'm doing business development here at DTU. I stayed with the company until very recently, growing it from an R&D company to a more production-oriented company and being a very operational company. And I think it's a lot of fun starting up companies. It's very interesting, and I think also there's a lot of value for society if we can make some jobs. So I'm happy to be here at DTU.
Søren?
Yes, my name is Søren Polmark. I have my own law firm, Praktum, and writing these term sheets, negotiating them, and drawing up the agreements that are sort of the result of such a term sheet is what I make a living of. So I think this is a great opportunity to give you some insights in how this can be done, and the terminology and the concepts that are used in this. So I hope you will have some interesting hours here together with us.
Ole?
And I'm Ole Kring, and I play the role of the evil investor today, out to take all your invention and pay you no money for it. In my real life, as Jess said, I used to be head of something called NKT Innovation. And the idea there was to take inventions from inside NKT and from universities and spin them out into high-tech companies. One of the companies, Crystal Fiber, we actually founded together with Jess, and that is one of the companies who's gone to become very, very successful. Apart from that, I've done 7 other kind of like technology spin-outs, and I'm currently the CEO of one of them called SMB, or Scandinavian Micro Biodevices, where we deal in lab-on-a-chip technology. We have a number of products for the veterinary market, and I'm happy to report for the first year since we bought back the company from our American owners, we have broken a profit in 2012 of 1 million kroner, so that was really nice. So I hope I can share some of the experience I had over the last 10 years of how to spin out things from universities and how to make a win-win situation for both the investors and for the people who have the inventions.
Yes, and finally, I would like to ask Brad. Brad is the founder of Global Concept or TermSheetBattle. He has done that all over US and Europe. And I knew the concept, but I didn't know Brad. And one day I pumped on him on a party, and I said, yeah, you know, there is this awesome term sheet battle. I would love to do that for my university, for my department, for our case. And then he just smiled and he said, you are speaking to the right person. Here's Brad.
Hi. I definitely was speaking to the right person, and since then I've gotten to know Monica well, and I have to say, Copenhagen's lucky to have you, because she is good at taking initiative. She saw an opportunity here to put on a program that really is unique. I mean, I've been doing these term sheet battles in the States and through Europe, but mostly working with a traditional, entrepreneur who comes up with this idea, puts together a team, gets some angel or VC financing, and those things can move pretty fast. This kind of a situation, it's unique, and each university is unique. Each country has its own culture, and I'm really looking forward today to hearing how this gets done, because honestly, talk about a black art. I don't know how many companies actually do spin out of DTU a year. I don't know, maybe one of you guys, is it 3 a year?
5.
Yeah, so what we have here is really a great opportunity for those in the audience, and by the way, we're recording it, and for those who could see it maybe at a later date or abroad, I think we're streaming it live. So hello out there, wherever you may be. So I'm happy to be here, and I think we should get rolling with the show. Now, the idea behind this is that this is a mock negotiation, and the cast has put a lot of effort into coming up with a term sheet. The term sheet has been distributed here in hard copy. There's a case study. And this is designed to simulate how a real negotiation might happen. Now, having said that, it probably wouldn't happen in 2 hours, and they probably wouldn't get quite as far as they're going to get today, I think. But without further ado, there we go. I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Just a little organizational note. We will try to keep the battle until 5, and then like 15 minutes for questions. And afterwards we will go for a lovely reception in the canteen just nearby. As you can see, it's quite industrial and technical design all over the corridor. So we will move to more cozy place. So stick with us, and we will feed you, and we will get you some drinks. And now let's give it up for our team. Let the battle begin.
Hi, Will. Good to see you again.
Hi. Yeah.
So I enjoyed our last talk and working through the business plan. I know it's a challenge I see going forward, but also quite a big market and a big opportunity we are looking into here. So maybe just how do you feel about the product or the concept we're looking at?
Well, I think that you come some way since we met the last time, and I would say the product is definitely interesting. Looking at it, I think the key question that we come up with is, can you really make it as cheap so we have that competitive advantage? And what are the difficulties? How fast can we get it onto the market? Because I'm sure there's somebody else out there working on a similar technology, trying to drive down costs, because it's an obvious thing to do as such.
Yeah, of course we have the patents. As you know, they are still pending, but we do get a very positive evaluation from the first one.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that struck me a bit from our conversation last time is I think that we need to start maybe today with just having a short discussion on what are our objectives. I think it's important that we both understand what are the joint objectives of this company, because from some of the papers that we've been exchanging, it kind of like was a bit unclear for me. And as a venture capitalist, it's our business model to invest in a company, be investors actively participating in building and driving that company for a period of years. And we've talked, because this is a technical project of a period of 5 to 7 years, but then we want to exit again. And I get this feeling when I read some of the papers that I got from you guys, that you kind of like saw this more as an ongoing company where you would maybe spend the next 30 years developing it into a great company. And I think we need to discuss this a little bit. Okay. How do you see that?
Yeah, to be frank, we're 4 persons on the team here. And I think it is slightly different also internally how we view things. Some of us would like to see this as our life work, where we can actually grow old and do interesting business. Maybe not necessarily something that's booming or a fantastic business, but something that makes a decent living and is very interesting. And I think the company can actually go 2 ways. We can have the hockey stick, as we've seen here. If we break into that market, we will all be happy. I guess it's probably easy to make an exit at a high value. The other scenario, where it's a company that's profitable, but maybe not a major boom, I do see we have an issue actually on the exit. So I guess we have some terms to discuss how to handle that case.
I think for this to be interesting for a venture company like ours, we really need to have an alignment with all the interested parties in the group here, that we are heading for an exit no later than 7, maybe 8 years down the road, and trust me, that's a long. Normally, for our kind of business, it's 5 years.
Oh yeah.
So I think that one of the things we need to maybe have a separate meeting with the guys in the team is to discuss this. I understand that the professor is not joining the company, but I do feel that there's a real need for making sure that all of you guys kind of like put your hand on the hot plate and push behind this project, so we don't end up with suddenly just having one guy and the 3 other guys going off in a different direction.
No, I see that point. So I think it's quite clear the professor, he wants to stay, and I think it has a lot of value. We're still based on some research here. We can also attract quite a lot of funding actually. So the research that's going on in the company and the university. So I think we can benefit working together there. So the professor is quite obvious to keep there. Luckily, our student, he's just dreaming about starting this up. He's working day and night. He's a fantastic guy, so he's jumping out in this and probably be boring.
And who is this of the guys?
So that's Dan.
That's Dan. Okay, yeah.
And then myself and Niels, we're interested actually in joining the company, but we do also have families. So I think, let's see how the company evolves over the first year or 2. Maybe it's interesting to join it. It's certainly a dream, but
what I think we will tackle this as we get down into it. But I think that we need to have some commitments from the 3 of you guys that you are able to. I think my microphone is very much It's okay? Yeah. That we need to somehow make sure that you also putting your weight in. It could be in a form of a consultancy contract, right, or maybe some provisions around how your shares are vesting, or bad leaver, good leaver kind of clause. But
okay,
you know, we'll come into that.
Yeah.
But,
yes, and I think so. We will get to that down the road. But one stakeholder we also should take into account is, of course, DTU.
Yeah.
And what we have managed to reach agreement with on DTU is that for the initial term of the company, it will have an exclusive license to these patents, and the patents that are they're pending, but still that is, of course, the basis of the company. Yeah. So we do understand the necessity and also the interest of the founders to take part of it, but most of it is sort of condensed into the patent applications.
And to be frank, I think it's also maybe the first year or 2 or 3 years, it's highly relevant with the founders to be involved, but not necessarily going forward. So.
No. My worry is clearly that we get the right, how do you say, intellectual capital into the company, and the transfer from the university into some people. Once we hit the production mode and so on, it's a different problem set. But initially, we'll have to make sure that everybody is behind the donkey chart and then pushing.
Yeah. But we're also conscious of the costs of the company. Yeah. So rather than having to pay 4 people full salary, if they can work on the university with the support of the university to sort of back up on the company, and it can get rolling, then as Jes mentioned, it will be a great opportunity for Jes and the other guy to join the company when it's relevant.
But I think we could maybe work that into some of the milestones or stuff like that.
Sure.
One question: what about future IP within this? You know, I'm not imagining that you're sitting on your hands, and I know from previous experiences where we've done spin-outs from companies or from the university, that more gets invented over the next year, 2, 3 years, and so on. Do we have any mechanism for channeling that IP into the company?
Yeah, so part of the business plan and what... So part of the business plan, we also set aside some money for DTU. So we're actually paying contract work, you can say. And in that way, it's quite easy to handle. The IP generates, it flows our way. Of course, you can say there's something in markets or technologies approaching that where we could have a dialogue. But I think we have a very fruitful dialogue with the management there. So I think we can handle that all. So.
Okay.
Okay. But should we turn to the investment?
Yeah, that's why we're here today. So yeah. So how do we kick this off? Do we want to kind of like just go through it point by point?
I think perhaps before we go deep into the term sheet you have sent us, perhaps we should talk about the structure of the financing you're offering.
Yeah.
Because you suggest some money in the first tranche, which we would expect to be paid into the company when you make the agreement with us.
I think that's acceptable for all parties around, that there's an initial payment on contract.
And then there's some additional payments, and as you mentioned, there should be some milestones. But something we wonder about is that over time the value of the company would go up, but in your proposal for the 3 tranches, you suggest the same subscription rate. How come?
Well, for 3 tranches is a very short period of time. It will cover, based on the budget that we have worked out together, it will cover the company until probably the end of 2015 or something like that. Now, from our perspective, really there is no value creation before we have a working prototype. And the money that we're putting in is what is going to cover going from where we are in the university labs at the moment until we have a working prototype. And that's where we can see if the technology holds home all the way. Of course, we believe that it's going to hold all the way, but at the end of the day, there's of course a risk, and there's always the chance that this here, for some reason, either becomes too expensive, or the technical performance is worse, or it takes longer time, and so on. So we put like the investment proposal against the fact that we are getting to the point where we have a working prototype. And so from our point of view, giving you the money in 3 tranches is that we are signing up for this with some very clear milestones, where the first one is the proof of concept, and the second one is the prototype. And from there on, we will have the possibility to start making some products. And that's really key for us, because the proof is not before we actually hit the market. That is the key proof of that there's value in this here. So this is why we're seeing this as the same valuation as we go along. We're then also proposing an optional investment where we are recognizing the fact that you guys have then reached something that has a value with a significantly higher valuation as such. And if you do the post money on this year, it's a quite valuable company when we put in the 4.5 million, even at that point.
Yeah, I see an issue with the 3 tranches. I think it's quite low, the money you're putting up front. 450, that's not a lot actually to get started. We have around 5 years of research within the company, within the university. So I think the proof of concept is there already. So I don't see a point actually in having the 2 tranches. I'd much rather have the money up front. Actually, we also do need to hire the first 2 people and get going. And there are some investments to start up the company. So I think we're more or less struggling day 1 if we sign this agreement as it looks.
Well, I think if you tell me that the proof of concept is already there, there shouldn't be any problem in really keeping the tranches as such, because then you will reach the tranche where you get the 900,000 real fast. So basically, it should not be a hurdle that you should have a difficult time of overcoming.
I think that's a good point. Of course, we need to discuss the details on that, but
but again, if it's very objective milestones, and we feel confident that these milestones can be met, I think the concept is all right then. But going through this term sheet you propose, I think what we would like to propose as ground rules is that we discuss it, we go through it, we try to reach agreement on all topics. But if we're pushed too hard somewhere down the road, we would like to say that nothing is agreed until everything is agreed.
I think that's fair, because it needs to be a win-win situation where we both are comfortable with it. But then again, we also take into account that we can't do this for an extended time. So we have to also make some compromises as we go along.
Ole, how do you feel about further funding? So we have a roadmap here, some funding actually to establish a company and demonstrate technology that's valuable and get the customers. Do you consider yourself investing in the next round? I just want to get the impression.
But that's what we put in the option.
Right.
It's 8 million kroner, and that's not an insignificant amount of money. And we think that at that point, we really need to look at it. As we also pointed out in the business plan, there will be an issue of funding all the, the operating capital issue. When we look at it, we have an idea that we want to sell something between 200 instruments or units in 16 and 500 in 17. And alone, that issue as such is going to require a significant amount of capital as such. And this is why we've said, we're willing to invest at this point here and put up the money. We then need to, as you said, put some soft money for it also, maybe some public research project or something like that. and we will need to get some kind of financing, and that will be important that we can back you against the bank, saying that we need some kind of funding of our operational capital expenditure as such.
Do you see yourself as the sole investor here at that stage, or what's your experience? Have you invested in similar type of companies before?
Yeah, if we look at the numbers, if we put in the optional tranche of 8 million, we are covered up till 2017 if we realize these numbers that you put in.
Right.
And we would like to take it to that point, and then I think it will become a commercial negotiation whether we as such will just defend our ownership if we take in an additional investor at that point, or we will also increase it at that point.
I think it's important also for the audience to be online that what we're talking about here is an additional option to subscribe beyond the 3 tranches. And we do think that the concept of an option is very interesting. In the term sheet in section 4.12, you have written that it's the investor's option. But
yes.
Why not the company's option? Because as we see it, this is an option. You have no obligation, so you can make it if it's attractive to you. That would per se be less attractive to the other shareholders. But the company, if they needed that money, then it would really be valuable to the shareholders, to the company, to have that option to call it from you. But if it's only an option for you, what's the benefit for the rest of us?
Well, the benefit for the company is that we have shown, and we have already at this point here negotiated a reasonable price. And honestly, it's also for us, we are taking the risk at the start. The further we get down, the further we get to actually selling products, tackling the technical difficulties, establishing customer relations and so on, the cost goes down. And this is why we are willing to pay 200 Danish kroner per share instead of 100 kroner at this point of time here, because we recognize the fact that real value has been created. I think it's very important for you to understand that a company does not increase its value in a linear way. It actually is kind of like a wave where you will have certain points where you have the ability to sell the company. But then after that point, the value of the company actually decreases again, comes down into a low until you build up to the next possible exit point. Exit points could be, for example, as you say, when the first prototype is available, one could pitch to somebody that this is such an interesting technology that they would like to buy the company. You would get valuation X. But once you start in actually putting out products and building products and so on, something happens that you get to a point where you need to reach maybe 10 million Danish kroner, have been on the market for a year and a half, 2 years, before you get to the next exit point. Then if you don't exit at that point, we're looking at, okay, now we need to break into these segments that will be like the cosmetic segment where the real high volume stuff is, where the real money is. So we break in at that point, and then there will be one, once we've proven we can break in, and so on.
But to take you back to the option you asked for, it has no limit in time. So assuming that the value goes up, goes down again, this option, if we're able to find other investors, or other investors, they turn up themselves and say they want to invest at double or triple or 10 times that amount.
Yeah, so to Frank, we might not know if you're the best investor at that time.
No.
So I think if we're sort of tight locked to this option agreement here, and it's only for you to call it, then either it's a lot more value the company, of course you'll take it, and the company loses because we could have got a lot more funding.
Yeah.
Alternatively, I think the company is not doing as well, which of course might be realistic, and you will not in any case commit to this. So I think it's a losing situation for us, to be frank, to have that option, and for the company. Yeah. So at least we have to call it.
No, I would maybe concede the fact that you're saying it's unlimited in time. And that's fair enough. That's a fair enough comment that it's unlimited in time, which means that I can actually call it, or we can call it in 2020 when the company is significantly much more worth. And we would be willing to concede that we put in a date saying that we have to exercise the option. Let's put it, say, maybe before the end of 2016, because that's also where the numbers shows that we will need some funding for the company to run up. Oh, sorry, 15. Yeah.
And so would we be locked? We could not approach other investors during that stage? Or?
Well, other investors would perhaps think this as a poison pill because they would think that this may or may not turn out to be a dilution of their shares, because if you have the option to subscribe 40,000 shares, almost a third or so of the company's issued shares, then a new investor would see, we don't know if that happens or not, so we will have to take that into account, and that would significantly lower the company's ability and our ability to attract new investors.
Well, that comes down to the trust issue at this point of time. Do you believe that we're the right guys to go with? Red Hot Ventures and Light Ventures are a couple of companies that's taken companies to if not gazillions, then significant exits in the 100 million Danish kroner range.
What's your experience? Is this dangerous for a long time?
I just think we should both keep our options open. Yeah. So we do appreciate your interest in the company, and we think you can bring much value, not just money, but much value to the company. So we'd very much like that. But we'd just like to say if you're ready to put your hand on the boilerplate and say that the company may call this investment, then it's a different game. But if it's something that you may or may not put into the company, my advice to the company would be, rather say no and see what happens.
Yeah. I think it's from our business calculations as such, if we're going to make this investment here, we need this option, because else it does not hang together for us. But I think what, as I said, I'll accept your argument that we have to invest before the end of 15 as one thing, and
a different price also.
It can be discussed, and we can probably hammer it out. Yeah. But just to get things straight, my advice to the founders would be that you would have to assume that this investment is made, and that it could potentially scare off other investors. While you don't have the money, you just have the option, the chance to get money.
But if you look at it, once we get to 15, pending the fact that we're not going to get anything off the ground this year, as we said, and 13 will be gone with setting up things and so on. So looking at the money that we're putting in, we're putting in a significant chunk of money, and you're not putting in any money at this point here. So that money will be burned, and if we are really we put together a very aggressive plan that we should have sold 60 systems at that point, and that's really that no technical glitch, anything else comes along as such. So I would be willing to say that we will put in the money. We'll put a date to that. We have the option up till the end of 15. We would also be prepared maybe to go to a strike of instead of 200 kroner per share of 250, would put in 10 million, would give the company a little bit more buffer. But I think that I have to say at this point, it's a pretty take it or leave it deal as such, because if we don't have that, the risk simply becomes too big on this venture.
And I can just ask Søren for advice.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think we should just sort of park it here, and say, okay, if it's a deal breaker that they want that option, okay, but you have to take into account that as long as that option is open, other investors, they will consider the company burned
Right.
by that.
And so we shouldn't try and fight for at least half of it. Is something we can call, or you see as a no-go? Or?
I think we should go through the rest of the term sheet and
Okay.
see if there are concessions
So
elsewhere.
Ole wins this one.
For the time being.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah.
So we.
Yeah. So I hope we're in agreement with this. One thing I wanted to bring up also here is that we are looking at putting on not so many people initially, but then there's going to be a significant ramp up, and as a venture investor, we would like people to be aligned with what we're doing, and as we form the initial kind of like owners of the company, the two venture companies together with you four guys, we would like to reserve something like 10% of the shares for a warrant pool that can be given not to the four of you, not to us, but to the other employees. So they feel ownership, so we get them to work day and night, and they also feel that they're creating value and they're getting some benefit out of that.
I'm perfectly aligned with that. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I think we should take that from the common stocks here. So that is something that we're also bleeding for this option pool here.
Yeah, we both have to put our hand on
this one.
On the plate.
I think
this one.
I think it makes good sense.
It would dilute us both.
It will dilute us
Okay.
both, and we are agreeing on that.
Okay, so that's good.
So yeah,
We can do that.
okay.
But when we go through the term sheet, we see how we have structured it, and in section 3.1 you mention a lot of documents that we assume you will have drawn up. But one sticks out to us, and that's one called Founders Representations and Warranties. And a guarantee. So, what do you have in mind?
I feel very uncomfortable with that.
Well, what we have in mind is please remember, we're the money guys, we're the dummies. We don't understand the technology. We will have our own independent advisors go through this here naturally on the secrecy clause and so on, but we must be absolutely sure that you haven't just put a lot of makeup on the corpse and then presented it as a lovely girl.
You said you had a lot of experience and you've made very successful companies in the past. I guess you're underplaying your competences here.
I'm not a PhD in photonics, so and in these cases the devil is always in the detail.
But you want us to be personal liable here, or?
Yeah, Kring, please look at it from my point of view. Like, you've been in some cozy jobs here at DTU. You've done research. You've gotten paid for it as you go along.
Right.
You made a wonderful invention. You've taken this company. You haven't put in any money in it as such. You are asking us to put in a lot of money into that also. And then
we're putting in our career. You have a whole portfolio.
Yeah.
You should bear in mind that you come with the money, but these guys, they've been working day and night for 5 years to develop this, and they put their baby.
We have one shot over. This is really what we. And you can also sense that from the team.
So they have definitely an interest in this becoming successful, and not hide anything from you.
But I must just say that we have experienced that we've been burnt before. That there were, let's say, people who were maybe less honest and forgot to tell about these details or edited a little bit in the data, so the performance just was a little bit better, or they didn't do the experiment quite right. And they forgot to tell.
So you mean scientific fraud? Or?
Yeah, I don't know what you'd call it, but sometimes that happens. And what we want to make absolutely sure is that you put your hands on the hot plate and tell me, we have been 100% honest. We have declared everything as such.
So if this is common sense, because I feel very comfortable not being a fraud into this company here. So if it's common sense, I'm fine with that, sir. But you have to warn us here with this.
Yes, but given that the warranties and representation should not take into account what these guys don't know, because the other teams developing this. There might be a patent application pending somewhere else which has not been publicized. So these kind of things where they don't know, where they didn't have a chance to know, that should not be covered.
No, but it is important that we have full disclosure. There's got to be full disclosure to the extent that there's no culpous calm-like behavior from the team side. If there are things that worries you, if there are things that where you are, calm like a bit, does this really work or doesn't it work, or where are the risks? We want you to state very clearly and very loud to us, where are the risks? We don't want you to sugarcoat it. We want to tell us, these are the good parts, but we also want to see the backside of the medallion.
But I think we can work on something where we make some statements that, to the best of our knowledge, etc., things have been disclosed, and a certain limited personal liability for a duration of time can also be acceptable. But we wouldn't accept unlimited liability for a long time for everything that these people might know or not know.
No, I think that what we could work with here would be that you makes a document where you list all the issues you might want to see, you see with the technology, what could be the dangers and so on, and trying to describe that in more detail.
I think we've done that in the business plan. So really, I'm concerned here that we're starting to protect our own bags instead of working forward with the company. So if this is some legal tricky issue that in practice doesn't matter, then I think you should cut it over. So
no, but I do think that we need to have something in here. Maybe, as you suggest, Søren, that we make it maybe a 2-year warranty or something like that, putting that into there, and once that, because after 2 years we would know if there has been anything. Anything that happens 2 years down the road is history.
2 years is a very long time. But may I suggest that I think we need to reach some common ground here. Your lawyers are probably used to having this going some time back and forth. But if we look at your lawyer's proposal, we look into that, but we have sort of stated our concerns, and we will revert with some modifications to make Jess and the team comfortable that they will disclose what they are suspicious of, etc. But otherwise, they should be able to sleep safe at night.
I won't take your firstborn, only the second.
Sure.
Okay, so you will come back with a proposal on some wording on this, Søren?
We would expect that you draw up the agreements.
Yeah, but could you put in the clause for this here and come up with some wording for that, and we'll see if we can find a word there.
One way or the other, yeah, sure. But I think most of the other documents that you're proposing are sort of usual agreements, of course. The contracts of employment with that needs to be negotiated. We should involve him in that. And then you have a list in section 4 with a lot of key terms.
Yes.
And I think the best thing to do is to sort of go through them step by step.
Yeah. Fine.
And the first one you have is competitive restraints that shall extend for 2 years. And by competitive restraints, you mean that the founders, they should not engage in something that sort of could turn out to be a competing technology, competing product.
That's absolutely correct. We cannot live with that. These 4 guys here, suddenly one of them pops up at Coherent Lasers with a good idea that Coherent came up with yesterday and has a competing product. That's simply not that's not acceptable.
I think that's fair. But 2 years is a long time. So
it's actually a short time. If you look at the business plan, after 2 years, we have the first budding of a product on the marketplace.
If I can catch you on that one, Ole, I think that's fine if it's 2 years from now, because what you're stating is it's 2 years after possibly expire of our ownership. So once we sold our shares or exit the company, then we're still bound 2 years.
Yeah,
That's quite that's tough. So,
but it will then hang together with what rights do you have as such,
Right.
going forward, backwards, and so on with
Right.
your options or your stocks, because one of the things that holds you is that those stocks has a value, which is like one of the things that we have that you do not want to play foul against the company.
yeah. But
But again, Ole, you have the patent, so that will restrain the founders from doing the same thing. And we should also bear in mind that these people, they have worked with this all their life. So if we can agree on a narrow scope of this competitive restraints, that's understandable, because it would not be in Jesse's and the other guys' interest to sort of open up a competing shop after having sold business. But still, they should be able to conduct what they educated themselves for. And you should also bear in mind that when working at DTU, they can be sort of involved more or less against their will in projects where it shouldn't sort of make it impossible for them to maintain their jobs here.
No, I don't think so. But that really hangs together with what happens research-wise within exactly this here. The research group that you have here, how is that going on? Is that continuing to build on this technology here, or is it going in a different direction? I think that's a very crucial thing for us.
yeah, well, I think you also need to separate between those that go with the company and those that stay, because the founders that stay with the university, I think this is not fair at all. The company will also grow. There's market intelligence and so on. That's within the company that's critical. So I think we need at least to divide it. And then I think if you need anything from the founders, it should be a short list, basically stating what the competitors are. You can revise it maybe once a year while they still have ownership, but it should be very clear to them so they're not in the dark and suddenly facing an issue on this clause here.
Yeah, I think I do agree that for those who joins the company,
Right.
there will be a non-compete clause, and it's going to be draconian, and it's going to be kind of like, it's really to the point, because they will have the inside knowledge of what goes on in the company. And we are fighting with two large companies, and that this is going to be an IP battle at some point when they see that we start undercutting them in the marketplace with the new technology.
Right. And I think it's fine actually to list those companies.
But what's key for me also is that what goes on here at DTU. As long as it's research, I'm fine with that. And actually I see it as a really positive thing that more research is going on, because again, if we just sit on the same side of the table, I want the company to succeed, you want the company to succeed, right? So the more free research we can get done at DTU, the better for the company, right? So that's kind of like a win-win situation for us. So I don't have a problem with research taking place at DTU, and I think we both have an interest in trying to find some mechanism where we can take that research and move it into the company. But what I would have a problem with is if those guys who do not join the company, as long as they hold shares, they suddenly join commercially or start working commercially within this technology area of a cheap laser with the major competitors, or start a competing company at a later point because they get another ingenious idea of how they can even undercut what we're doing.
I think we agree on that one, because there's also some musketeer oath among the founders, and if one breaks out, he could ruin it for the others. So I think it's fair to keep some competitive restraints here. But I would say 1 year maximum. So.
But then maybe we should try word around saying as long as you have shares, you're bound. 1 year we could probably accept that after you've sold your shares. But we also need to put some wording around what happens at DTU, and that they don't go out work with other companies which are our competitors, just so we have comfort.
That could pose a problem. Neither of us is representing DTU, and from experience I know that could be a tough one.
Yeah.
But our interests are aligned in that respect, and I think that agreements is one thing. There's incentives also to.
So I would suggest we come up with I'll ask the lawyers to revise and come up with something I'll look at some business reports to see who are the competing companies,
Nice.
so we can list those.
Yeah.
And then we'll make some kind of statement about joining either startup companies or starting your own company within a field, and we have to define a field which is reasonable for all parties.
I think
it has to be broad enough to cover so we don't get unwanted competition, but it shouldn't, if they want to go do something else, no, that's fair enough.
Okay, I agree.
So.
Okay, but now we will turn to another topic in some of the following subsections. Before going back into the battle, we'd just like to give you a quick introduction to some of the terms we'll be using now. And among the handouts, there's a quick and dirty glossary. So you could take a look at that. We've mentioned dilution several times, and dilution is what happens when the capital of a company is increased. Then others having a fixed share of the company, that gets to become a less share of the total shares of the company. That's the concept of dilution. But what we'll look into now is dispositions, transfers of shares in the company. And first right is a very usual concept that if somebody wants to transfer their shares, then other shareholders should get a first right. So they will be able to match an offer from a third party. Then there's
disadvantages of that to the others.
Sorry?
Maybe should you comment what the consequences or the
But
disadvantages?
we'll play that. So
Okay.
so you'll see. It's also common, especially for investors, to want to have drag-along rights. And by drag-along, you mean that when you're selling something yourself, you want to be able to drag somebody else. So you, rather than just sell your own shares in the company, you can actually sell all the shares in the company. And the concept is that a buyer of the company will be more interested if he can get control of the company altogether, rather than just replacing the investor. So that was drag along. Tag along is something that the shareholders are also interested in. Because if somebody gets a good offer for their shares, then rather than having to match that offer to be able to buy the company and sell it to someone else, you can tag along, you can piggyback on the sale by one shareholder and say, hey, that's a good deal. I want to tag along that so I can sell my shares at the same price and exit the company. So these concepts are sort of what we will center around now. And you can keep your glossary with you, so if there's other terms, you can take a look at that. Okay, but going back into the term sheet, I think we did cover the option in 4.1.2.
Yes.
And in 4.1.3, you say that in the event of a transfer of shareholdings, you should have a right of first offer.
Yes. This is a very, very normal thing to have in these kind of agreements. Mm-hmm. That if you want to sell, we have no interest in spreading the shares to gazillions of different people. So therefore, we would want to have the possibility to buy the shares, to keep them in a limited group of people, so we can realize a sale at a later point.
But I think that's only one side of the argument. The other one is it's difficult actually to go out and get a good price and go through all the discussions and diligence with a third party if you can just go in and grab the deal. So it's basically hinders us from making a good agreement.
I do agree it becomes more difficult, but if you find a good investor, which we would kind of like look at and say, well, that's fair enough. We would like to have that person in here. I'm not sure we would want to exercise at that point here. There's a limit to how much we want to own of the company, but we see it as a possibility to go in and make sure that that the company does not fracture and we suddenly has to do every decision on a general assembly because there's some voters out there or some shares out there that doesn't want to go the direction we want to go with.
I see that point.
Yeah, and we do think it's also a good point, but as Jes mentions, it's a very difficult market to sell something into if nobody can get comfortable that they will actually be able to buy whatever Jes has offered to them. So if you match the offer or if you give a better offer, then Jes of course would sell to you. But what we're looking for is just sort of an allowance to have a limited amount of shares where Jes and the other founders can sort of raise some money from having invested in this already 5 years. And again, we understand the concept and we will not do this against your interest, but sort of to be able to make a fair negotiation with a third party, who should, of course, become party to this agreement, so it would not be a free missile going around.
So we do agree that any new owner must be bound by the shareholders' agreement.
Yeah.
But my worry is a bit, if you put this up on in Denmark, it would probably be hard to find somebody who was willing to buy a very small piece of shares into this. It might be your rich uncle or something like that. You can talk into it, which would make things difficult, right? But you could I don't know if there's a market for it, but you could put it up on some of the marketplaces. There's online marketplaces in the US for unlisted type companies. And suddenly we have a very different situation. I don't know how to handle that as such.
But we could call the company Facebook, for instance. Yeah. So just to make a point that there is developing secondary markets for that kind of thing.
But can you sell there and claim that people must be bound by the shareholders' agreement? Can you be party to that? I'm not sure because
maybe ask a US lawyer.
It would be possible. Yes, but we think it's a nice concept, and we'd like you to consider granting us that option.
To be frank, Ole, we're also 4 people here, so I think it's likely that we'll have different interests if we're looking at a 7-year period here.
Yeah.
Somebody might want to sell off, so this actually could be a golden cage, I think, for all 4 of us here.
Well, that's what you want. Honestly speaking, that's part of what we really want. We want you guys to work for the company, not for somebody else. No. We want you to have a vested interest.
Right.
But I do see that this is something you feel strongly about. Maybe we could put something together instead of you needing to do first offer. We do a period of time where you have a lockup. You're not allowed to sell, and then if you sell, we'll have a first right of refusal.
I think it's fair.
Could that be a compromise that everybody could live with? My worry is it's not that I want you to not be able to realize some money out of this here. Mm-hmm. And 7 years it's a long period of time. I do agree. On the other side, I have to take care that we don't suddenly have free-going missiles, shares floating around that we don't know, that haven't signed, which we don't have a drag-along, tag-along kind of like provisions in that whole thing. So we got to have some kind of comfort around this here.
We're sort of comfortable with the concept of a lockup of a limited period of time, but turning an option to sell a small portion of shares against a lockup. And you would have a full first right of refusal. Was that what you said?
Kind of, yes, in that.
So rather than gaining something, we should give you 2 things in return.
Yes.
Bad deal.
Okay. Thanks. It seemed quite innocent to me, but okay. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, but much along the same.
Sorry.
Much along the same lines. what Ole you have written here when we turn to the next two issues, the tag along and the drag along.
Yeah.
You sort of made it like heads or tails. When you say if it's heads, I win, and if it's tails, you lose. So what you have stated here is that the tag along should only be you who should be able to tag along, and when it comes to drag along, it should only be you who could drag us along.
Well,
so
that's because we're the guys putting up the money.
Still, we're putting up the baby.
Yeah. Well, maybe if we kind of like, I would say, of these here, the drag is of course the most important for us, because a company like this here has only value if you can sell it as a whole entity, because I think that the reason for this going on a public offering of some kind is very limited. This is going to be a trade sales to either Coherent or some of the other players in the business, which means that we have to be able to sell the whole company, because else they will not be comfortable. Having something floating around that just becomes too messy for them. They don't want to pay the price. It devalues the whole deal for them.
Okay. Yeah. So if we assume you're much better at negotiating a sale than we are.
I hope so.
And I think we have to be humble. You're professional, you are. Yeah. So I think the tag along has quite a lot of value for us. If you want to actually get a good deal, there's no way we can go out and do the same deal on our share.
Because if you sell and we're not able to tag along, then we could just sort of be stuck, be living with that forever, and perhaps never make an exit.
So I think tag along is a deal breaker for us if we don't get that right.
Okay, but if I give you tag along in this aspect here, then I would like to link it so we link it together with the first right. So we make a first refusal, and that new shareholders needs to be bound by the shareholders agreement as such.
We understand what you're saying. We had hoped that you would take on to the concept of allowing us to sell a small share, but we realize that it's quite a sort of a new concept in Denmark to do that. So perhaps it's too early. But
if I have a first right of refusal, if I do not exercise that at that point, you are of course free to go out and sell it to somebody else.
When the lockup.
Lockup, of course, but we will make a reasonable lockup period, right? And it has to be coinciding with when we generate value in the company and where we are.
What's that, 30 days or what does that say?
No, the lockup will be some years. And again, but if you go back and look at our master plan that we put together, at that point, I have to ensure that you guys, call it golden cuffs, call it what you want, but I want to make sure that your interests are aligned with my interest. I can come with the money, I can come with the business savvy, I can do the negotiations. What I can't deliver is a product. And this here is nothing without a product. This is what the four of you guys are offering to this company. So I want you to have a vested interest in it going good for this company, and not for some reason that you are getting divorced or suddenly you need to buy a new car, that you feel compelled to go out and put some of these stocks up, and thereby actually decreasing your commitment to the company.
Okay. So should we just take a time out, so you just put fingers in your ears?
I have now gone outside the room, which is very normal in these kind of things, that you ask for a time out to discuss something, and then one party will leave the room and you have a chance to talk. That's why we always bug the rooms.
So I misunderstood the lockup period. I thought, what's the time when we make this offer for him?
It is usual to have a lockup of a couple of years.
Yeah, I get that. So, but when he gets the offer that we have a third party for him, he shouldn't have a very long time to. The third party.
Yes. Again, after the expiry of the lockup period, then if you are able to get someone interested in buying your shares, then the usual thing would be that you provide that offer to Ole, so he can see, does he want to match it or not? If he does, he should respond within a matter of weeks, a few weeks.
Yes.
And then he can match it, and if he doesn't, you should be free to sell.
Sure.
But the lockup would prevent you from selling unless Ole consents to it, of course.
Okay.
But if we should try to put this together in a package, I think he's not comfortable about the sale of a small share without his first right of refusal. So I think we'll have to give him that. When it comes to the drag along, it isn't very likely that it will be us who will have a buyer. So dragging him is less likely. What you should be conscious of is that when he's able to drag you, if he just wants out of his investment and maybe gets a poor deal, if you think, oh, but we want to fight for more years, then you could exercise your right of first refusal. So you could match a third party's offer.
So that could be like management buyout.
Yeah, but you'd need to find the money somewhere.
Right.
So the risk you have if he sells too cheaply is that it might be cheap, but still you can't match it. So he'll be able to sell your shares as well, and your baby will be gone.
Okay, so should we try and have a clause there that we actually have first right of refusal?
We as it is now, we do have a right of first refusal, but what we could try to say is that he can only drag us if he gets a price above a certain limit. So it's not a poor exit, but still it's difficult to sort of say what should that limit be.
Right.
Okay. But one thing, and he acknowledged that, was the tag-along, I think. So we definitely need the tag-along, because otherwise we could sort of be stuck in the company with just a series of new owners stopping by and us never getting anything from it.
Right. So to set the price for
the drag-along?
Yeah.
Yeah. It could be something like 10 times his own price, or it's,
yeah,
just a best guess.
Okay, what's your experience there?
I think it's not worth fighting too much for.
No.
So I think we can throw something out and see if we can use it to negotiate something else.
You try and horse trade him on this one.
Yes.
Okay, let's see how that goes.
Okay.
Hello guys, you had a chance to chat?
Yes, we did, and I think we're ready to accept that both of us has this first right of refusal. Again, we hope that you will, if the situation should occur, be able to. We could discuss a sale of a part of the founder's shares, but leave that be. As I understood it, we agreed on a mutual tag-along.
Yes, we can agree to that.
And with respect to the drag-along, we can accept that only you have a drag-along, but we would ask that it should be above a certain level, that it should, say, be 10 times the most recent subscription price you had to, if you want to drag us.
That's 10 times. I think we could, again, in the spirit of getting aligned interests, I think we could live with something like that. Maybe not the last subscription price, but maybe with compared to the amount of money invested in the company. One could say maybe 3 or 4 times the money invested in the company as such. At this point, we would have, if we have exited our option and when we would have put in 12.5 million kroner. If we set that to be 4 times, we would have a sell price of 50 million.
Okay. Should we do that?
I think it sounds reasonable. Yeah.
So.
So what we should turn to now is the control of the company.
Yes.
And of course we should differentiate between control and majority. If and that's just for the sake of the audience, that majority of course is how many shares you have, and if there has been made no agreement between the shareholders, then it would be the majority of shareholders that would be able to decide what should happen with the company. But these negotiations, they evolve around a shareholders agreement, and in such a shareholders agreement, it is very common to have provisions dealing with how decisions are made in the company. So what we're turning to now is the composition of the board of directors, and also some veto rights we will come into. So going back into the negotiation, if we look at subsection 416, you have said that we should agree on the composition of the board of directors, and you should have the right to appoint the chairman.
Yes. And we were looking at we should have a board of maximum of 5 persons. We think that that's operational for such a company. Our suggestion would be that we get the right to appoint 2 members. You get the right to appoint 2 members. We would ask that these 2 members should not be somebody who's employed in the company. That we do not feel is proper, because that's kind of like if you were employed, yes, it would not be a good thing that you were also sitting in a board position. That gives kind of like a dual role, which is hard to handle.
Can you elaborate? Why not? Or?
Well, because let's say that the board has to discuss your dismissal. This is a very good example. It's not very nice for you to sit there while that's happening as such. So what we're looking for is a board should be a professional board which can take the right decision. So we would look at people who has the business acumen to actually drive something like this here forward. But I don't know, do you have any ideas of who you would like to appoint as such?
Oh yeah, so of course we like to be represented as strongly as possible by the founding team. I think I do understand the argument that to be employed with the company is not a good fit to be on the board either.
No.
We are also facing the situation where some of the founders are not going to join the company. I think. So it's quite obvious that we have at least 1 seat, and I would argue for 2. Which is our professor in one case, and Jacob probably.
Okay.
I think we'll probably end up in the situation with the board that the information will flow in any case to the founding team. So
it will, but I think we put a lot. From our side. What we're looking at is that we will probably have 1 representative from the ventures. Is going to be either me or my colleague from Light Ventures, Brad. And then we want to bring in somebody who can actually add to the company. I think the professor brings the technical knowledge as such. So what we want to bring in is somebody who is very, very familiar with the actual sales side of this business, the customer side of it. Because for a company like this here, we got to have a crystal clear product focus. When is it good enough to put it on the market? That's the moment we need to put the product on the market. And to be able to have those discussions, and I think we would be fine with you guys maybe having 2 of the guys, but the ones which are employed in the company, we would be uncomfortable with having them in the board as such. This also links to the fact who's the CEO and the CTO of the company. Once we start growing a bit, it would be natural that the CEO and the CTO are participating in the board meeting, but can be asked to leave the room.
Yeah, I guess probably also we need to agree on the time frame here, because when we're starting out the company, it's 2 persons.
Yeah.
So having a board that discusses the strategy without those 2
does not make sense.
So So I'm quite well aligned with you. What I think we need to supplement the competences of the team here. We do need that on sales.
But you said you saw the professor?
I think we want the professor. He has a fantastic network. Many of our customers, lead customers, will actually be in the scientific community. So I think it's good to draw on his experience and simply also get him involved and feel strong in the company. So that one is quite obvious.
Who do you see as the second seat from your side?
Yeah, so I see if Jacob, my colleague, is not entering the company, I think it would be quite natural for him to be there.
Okay. What's Jacob's background as such?
So he has been researcher over the years here, but he's quite influential in the team also. In the environment.
Yeah. But I think the board will be something that evolves over time.
Yeah.
So at different stages in the company's life, it will call for a different composition of the board. But to sort of agree on the modalities of this board, what we would like is to at least have as many representatives as you. So we would be 1 against 1 or 2 against 2. That would be what we would like.
Well, I think that from our side we can accept that you get to a point 2, we get to a point 2, but we want to have the chairman appointing as the 5th person, and the reason for that is very, very clear, that we again has the business acumen. We have a very clear goal with this company, which is to build it, get product on the market, and then sell it. And to do that, we have to be able to control a number of the decisions. We are the business people. You are not the business people in that aspect. I know it's a little harsh to put it that way, but that is the reality of things, and therefore decisions has to be taken from a business perspective, not from a university perspective. And if you excuse my French in this aspect here, what we've seen in a number of cases is that it's a very hard transition going from being a researcher at a university to coming into a company. It's a very, very different world. Initially, they might not seem very different, but you gotta have this laser-like focus on getting a product out there. Anything else, which could be very interesting to look at and which could be a very nice paper and so on, forget it. It's gotta be, and we gotta have that control to ensure that happens.
But I think we're sort of in line with that.
Well, not frankly, I think it feels very uncomfortable actually to giving the control away as the founders. That's one of the things we've been discussing internally that we feel quite strongly about. So I don't think we can hand that over to the investors. You might have different interests than us and want to sell it off.
But I do think that
middle ground, that our professional board chairmen, I know we could maybe once the company goes profitable or when you exercise your option, then we can go for an independent chairman. But I think up front to giving away the majority in the board, that feels very uncomfortable.
I think that from
it doesn't reflect the shareholding either. So you got all the protection rights from these terms.
It does. I think you're protected in the fact that we agreed to a 50 million kind of like floor level for selling off. We cannot sell off unless we agree that it's a good idea. You are protected in that aspect. You would own half of the company at that point, if we're looking at it, meaning that you would reap 25 million Danish kroner, which is not an insignificant sum as such.
So who would it be a chairman from your company, or would
we would look for a chairman which has industry experience. That's the key for us.
And how should we pay him? Should that be for money, or should he have some stake in the company?
I think the chairman should have a small part of the options or warrants available to the company as such. That should be his remuneration as such.
Okay.
And maybe we could imagine once we get further on that he would get 50,000, 100,000 kroner a year, something like that. But that's the amount of money we're talking about.
So you would suggest a chairman, and if we could veto that, then I think we could live with that. We'd probably say yes, so we have the same interest here.
Yeah. I think I would need to discuss this with my colleague in Light Ventures because this is a very, very cardinal point as such for us.
But still, Ole, the next issue that's on your list, the important decisions in 418, that would give you sort of a lot of control with how your money are spent.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but again, it's about driving the company toward a commercial goal and ensuring that happens, so we don't kind of like deviate. I think we've seen too many times that suddenly, and again, you excuse my French here, that researchers believe that this is still part of the university, and that we don't have that laser-like focus that we need to. This is a very, very key point for us in that aspect. Now, I think that we can work something for the initial phase. What we might want to flip here is saying that after we launch this product, so we could maybe do with a board where we have 2+2, and then after we launch the commercial product, we then have the right to put up a candidate for this here and choose who's going to be the chairman, because at that point we enter into a different ballpark of the game. So we can probably live with a 2 and 2, and then we have to put some provisions into 418 to make sure that we have the comfort that we need there.
I need to discuss it with the rest of the team.
Yeah, okay,
this is strong, but I think it makes sense, and probably I can argue for that.
Yeah. So that kind of like brings us into naturally into talking about who's going to be the CEO of the company. And I know, yes, that you've expressed that Dan would like to become CEO to start with. Why do you feel that he would be the right person to be the CEO?
Well, I think before he did his PhD, he was actually working in a company for 2 years. So he's got industry background. He was product manager there, so he knows how to drive a product forward. That's what needed, I think, in this initial phase.
Okay.
He doesn't have the marketing insight or the sales experience, so there's clearly disadvantages there. But if we have a working board also that can guide him on that, he could actually serve as a good CEO. And you do see examples of these when it's their own baby that actually drives things much, much better than anyone else can do. So
I think the key problem for him is that he doesn't understand all the other things that needs to be taken care of. But not making a long point of it, what I would suggest, I think what you're saying, that he could become the initial CEO, yes, but it has to have a clear understanding that this is a temporary position, and at some point when we get, again, probably when we start launching products or getting close to that, he has to step down to a CTO position if he's the right person for that, and we gotta get a commercial CEO in onto the company.
I think it makes good sense.
Okay.
With 2 to 3 persons starting out the first 2 or 3 years, then I think it's natural for him to drift in CTO.
Okay.
But I think we should try to cover the rest of the issues so we can see if we can wrap this up today.
Yeah.
And what you have in section 418 are some veto rights. I think you're directing at certain decisions that require your approval. And in an appendix to the agreement, you have a long list of all sorts of things that you can veto. Why is that necessary?
Well, again, in the fact that we have a unexperienced CEO in here, we would like to make sure that suddenly he doesn't kind of like bind the company or take some decisions which is unnecessary, which is why we would like to have a very close dialogue. And what we would see is that I would probably personally establish a very close dialogue with him, have regular meetings, and our experience is it actually goes pretty easy as such, because he gets me as a sparring partner or sparring board where he can discuss decisions with the surgeon. Should we go this way? Should we do this? And so on and so on. He will have some freedom, but there are certain limits where he says, okay, we have to just go this. Let's just put up an example. He suddenly decides for himself he wants a company car, or the company needs a company car, so he buys a company car for 200,000 kroner because that would be nice. I would not see that as being in the interest of the company here. And then I know it's a little bit of silly, but you have seen examples of people going a little bit overboard suddenly because there's 2 million kroner on the bank account and as such.
I think you're selling it well. I think that makes sense if you come in with competence money, so to speak. I think it's fair. I think we do need to have a time limit on this one here. It cannot go forever, obviously. So maybe we should cross out some of the issues here, but overall the idea is very good, and I think it's great to have an investor like you with that competence.
We understand, yes, that since it's your money that will be available to the company, you'd want some control of it, but it should we think should be linked to the time that it is your money in the company. Yeah. So it shouldn't last forever. And one thing that's very important to us is that you should not be able to block new investors in the company. We should be able to get third parties interested in investing without you being able to prevent that. You'd be able to subscribe shares to protect your ownership share of the company, but we'd very much like to have the opportunity to be able to attract other investors.
Yeah. I think, as we have agreed on the option part of it as such, we could probably live with the fact that after we have had a chance to exercise our option, that we can't, that other investors can come in. We of course need to have a right to protect our own share and invest on the same terms and so on. But we're willing to concede that we can take in new investors at that point. I think that's fair enough.
Okay, agreed.
So just also I just want to clarify one thing for you, just so everybody's clear on this, that we have some board matters where we lock things down, but then we have shareholders matters, and that has to be 75% to have to agree. So there you actually have you have a hold on that, so we have to agree on these matters here as such.
Okay, but that's...
So I think that we try to be very fair and square with you in this aspect here. There are certain things where we want to protect our money so that they don't go to funny projects, but for a lot of other matters, you actually have control, and it's a two-way street.
Okay, good. We appreciate that. Then you introduce another concept. Some preferences are mentioned in 419, where cash proceeds from the company should go to you at twice your original subscription price plus interest, and then the rest should be shared equally pro rata to ownership. But why is that? Why should you have twice your amount back, and wouldn't we sort of be short sold there? Because after that we would just get our pro rata share, and you would be sort of, if you have invested 10 million, you would be 20 million ahead of us plus interest. Is that fair?
But Søren, this is the venture model. For every company that we invest in, there's a 10% chance that they succeed. 1 out of 10 makes back the money. So this here is our way of actually leveraging that, and it's absolutely bog standard in the venture business that you have a preference and you have a double dip and you get an interest as a hurdle rate on it. You go to anybody else and ask for this here, they will come up with exactly the same. Some will even have a triple dip.
So this is 2 bites of the apple. First you take
they want both 1 bite and then a second bite and a third bite, and they were part of the core also, which there's something left. But Ole, when we looked at this term sheet and talked with the other guys, we sort of we looked at the subscription price and said, well, we had expected more, but
going through provision after provision after provision, and then seeing this, that the subscription price is not that attractive, but if we should agree on that, we cannot agree to your double dipping.
What would your suggestion be? I cannot come back to Light Ventures and give out on this. This is guys. This is so bog standard, that, and I even taken it down to a double dip instead of a triple dip.
You're selling that too late.
But in the interest of trying to make this happen, what would your suggestion be? Because I gotta come home with something.
I think it's fair you get your money back. So and some interest.
Yes.
But I don't. Why should you have more if you get interest?
You can start by getting your money, and then we should have our money, so we get a catch up. Mm-hmm. So if it's a poor sale, your money is secured. Mm-hmm. If it's a good sale, it's equal. You get your share, we get our share, and then the rest is divided pro rata. So in effect, it is pro rata all the way. You just gets first if it's not a good deal.
But you forget, I've just agreed to the fact that I can't sell before 50 million. So if you make...
You can't drag.
I can't drag it, but I basically can't, you can sit down and say, no, wait, guys, I'm not doing this, and we're stuck. So if you look at the numbers, I would get at that point, 12.5 million back. I would get a little bit of interest, not much. So let's say that I've gotten 15. That means that there's 35 left. You would still have a pretty good deal getting half of that. I think I can live with the fact that we say that I get my preference back. I get my interest, but I can't live with a catch up. So you gotta you got to take it there. We get the money back.
So all is secured on your side, and then we share from that.
We share from that.
We would have to go back to the others and make them understand this concept.
Because so that's this middle scenario where it's not really a super attractive company. We do get some money, but you more or less take it all.
Yeah, that's up. If you can deliver on your business plan here, where we're looking at. We will have, when we are in the process of selling the company, we would have a turnover of 200 plus million Danish kroner, right? A company like this here would then sell for 3-4 times its turnover. You can get maybe 6-7 times of the bottom line. If we just take the turnover, that would mean that would be a sale in the order of 800 million. No.
But that's not the case.
If you can we gotta believe that we are buying into a deal where you can deliver on this business case here.
But you see that case is sort of irrelevant because that's the 1 out of 10 where you say you make all your money back, and then it doesn't really matter this one. So this clause here is basically for the middle case to the poor case we're handling.
But this is where you put your hand on the boilerplate for me, because if you're not delivering. You can't have the cookie and eat it. So in this case here, you're just gonna accept the fact that, okay, if I'm not delivering this, but even if you look at the numbers, okay, let's just say we get to the numbers where we are kind of like we don't get to the 200 million, we get to 50 million in turnover. It still means that we have a sale in the order of 200 million. Yeah. And if this technology is so attractive that you're putting up, you're trying to sell to me that this technology is going to be so shit hot, excuse my language, that it's going to be the next best thing since sliced bread. What's the problem that you are putting up here? You're saying you want to have the cookie and eat it. That's not acceptable.
Is that typical? Getting those 2 bites? Or?
It's not the 2 bites, I think, but 1 bite. Is seen, and Ole acknowledges that. So I think it's the catch-up we're discussing, and I think we need to go back to our people and agree on that.
He's not completely unrealistic compared to other reasons.
He's not on my side of the table this time.
Yeah. But moving on, I think
you have something else that sort of discourages us, and it's some protection against dilution. And do we understand that concept right? That if you invest now at a price of 100 per share, and we've discussed this option, and if there's a down round where the subscription price is lower, you should be placed in a position where all the shares you have subscribed should be sort of redistributed, so you would have as many shares as if you had subscribed to that lower price.
That's absolutely correct.
But that could sort of just blank us totally off the board.
But again, Søren, you know that this is also box standard. The reason for this is, again, we are not the guys who understand the technical side of it. We are buying into a business case with a certain growth potential. If with the pre-money and the post-money that we are suggesting here, if you do not deliver on this year, we are in a very different situation. We are in a situation where we're suddenly saying, oh, we haven't reached all the goals that we're supposed to reach. I can only look one place, that's to the team, to say you did not perform as you had put up. This is your plan. You put this on the table saying, this is what we will execute on. So this is what binds you. Suddenly we come into a situation where this is not happening. We go out, we need more money. Somebody comes in, an external investor, and says, guys, you gotta be kidding. I'm not paying 100 Danish kroner per share, I'm only paying 50. Should we then take a hit, a substantial hit for you not delivering on the plan?
But Ole, that's not entirely true. Sorry to interrupt you, but because we're relying on your business acumen. We're relying on your ability to assess the technology. We think the price should be higher now. If we accept a low subscription price, and if you do not deliver on your business network, board work, etc., why should it just be us taking a severe hit if things take longer for reasons that does not owe to us?
Yeah, okay. And I think you are also very cognizant. You're judging the business plans as a look here. You have a lot more experience actually evaluating those and the risks here. So saying a third party comes in after a number of years and saying you did a poor job up front, and you're saving yourself, oh, we're looking at those, they're so clever, we need the same prices because we didn't do our work initially, or the inventors didn't do well. I think it sounds quite unfair, to be frank. I think we're stepping in here together. We believe that's a very good case. I think it's attractive to you to be first on this one here, and you're putting everyone else out with these options. I don't think you should also have the possibility of stepping down in subscription rate, looking back in time here.
Well, maybe, this is very key to us, right? And this is something we normally doesn't budge on. What we might try to put up here is a technical ratchet, meaning that we'll put some technical specifications in place that the product needs to meet. If it doesn't meet those technical specifications in performance, cost price, and so on, then we kind of like, that activates a ratchet. But if it does that, then you can say then it's a business issue of why we're not succeeding. So we're linking it to a technical issue of some kind, saying that you have to deliver on what you think this can be cost-wise, performance-wise, and so on, so we actually have a sellable product.
Okay, then it sounds intriguing, but I think you know also that we're quite vain as technical people, and we probably underestimate the challenges. So there's a big risk actually that you'll get your full ratchet.
We're not comfortable with it. So,
but maybe we should, in the interest of time, we should shelve this one here and then come back to it and try to. We're willing to work on it, but I think a technical ratchet could be a way to go.
But just for the audience, this is a really critical point. This is a bad one to have.
But again, I will tell you also, this is something that ventures will fight to the end to keep. I have that in my company, because the argument towards you is that the team is not performing. This is why we need more money, and that is why that you want to have this full ratchet in here. So it's something that it's going to be really, really hard to avoid, and you will have to offer up something else, because they're saying you're not putting in money. We have to have that protection if you're not delivering. Okay.
I would add, this may represent a big difference between, say, what happens in the Silicon Valley and what happens over in Europe, because the data that I have in the Silicon Valley shows that a full ratchet happens in about 2% of the deals. Yeah. And the way most of these get structured over there is with what's called a broad-based weighted average. And that typically means that there is some price adjustment if there's a down round. But with a full ratchet, I mean, basically it puts all the risk on the common stockholders, and the common stockholders essentially get wiped out, completely wiped out in the context of a full ratchet. And the other thing is, you know, the investors also have the right to participate in the financing. Sometimes it's not in this. You actually have something called a pay to play, which is the flip side of the coin, which is if there is a down round or a need for additional financing, and the investor doesn't participate, then it's kind of like a ratchet. Sometimes they'll lose their liquidation preferences. They'll be stripped of some of those things because essentially they haven't been a good investor. They didn't support the company when they needed it most. So we can come back to this, but this full ratchet thing, I mean, you guys being engineers would be good at the math. There's really complex mathematical formulas, but it's a super important point.
Okay, but that's been shelved. We hope it will not evolve again in the next edition. But
try to work something out.
In 4111, some exit terms, including, you say, a mandatory redemption. If we understand you correctly, that would be that at some point in time, you should have the ability to surrender your shares to the company and then get, you write, twice again the amount you subscribed plus interest in return for not having any shares any longer. Yeah. That's a very depressing scenario, but if it's not a success, why should you have twice your amount again?
Well, I think that kind of like addresses more relevantly your point of this modeling along company, where we get into a situation where this is not taking off. You know, we're in this for a growth case. Venture is all about growth cases, being able to exit the company again, and we have a idea. It's just not happening, right? But you have turnover, you have product, you think it's actually interesting, it's your little baby, you want to go nurse it. We want to get out. So this is really just to give us the protection of saying, okay, if this kind of like muddles along, you come and tell us, fair enough, we don't want this, we don't want to sell, it's not happening. So we just want to be able to get out. We want to have something for the risk we took, which is a double. So you can actually the company gets a chance to buy back the shares. And we are out, and you can carry on with the company as you would like.
It's not a chance for the company to buy back the shares. It's a chance for you to...
We can ask the company to buy back the shares.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, but we can risk here actually having a company that's doing well, but you can basically close it down here because we don't have the money for that, and maybe the banks won't lend us the money. So I think the time frame of 5 years doesn't make sense. I do think the concept is fair. So,
but we should have some time to be able to raise that kind of money and not twice the money. You could get your money back with some interest, but not.
But okay, but then we put together a 7-year plan. If we agree to that after 7 years, if we haven't come to fruition, if we are not able to sell it, we have the ability to tell the company that we want to have our money back twice with the interest.
Okay, and we have to go out and find the money.
You have to go out and find the money in the bank. But then again, you can't pick the hair of a bald man. So
okay.
Okay.
Agreed.
I'd like to point out one other thing about this I think it was Albert Einstein who said that the greatest invention of the 20th century was compound interest. And so if you do the math on 2x plus a 10% interest rate, I don't know exactly what it would come out to, but I think it would be about a 3x. Is that about right?
Yeah.
Probably.
So, around there. So again, this shows you that the devil's in the detail, and that's why you need a good lawyer at your side when you do this. Okay? So I think we need to speed up a little bit if you're gonna reach your golf of term.
Yes, that's important. That's important.
Yeah,
Very important. Yes, I guess we did cover the lockup you have in the next one.
And we agreed on that, yeah.
Yes, but it said 3 years.
Yeah.
I think we said 2 years when we spoke about it.
We agreed 2 years, yes.
Okay. In 4113, you have keyman clauses.
Yes.
Could you explain that to us?
Well, keyman clauses is the people which are in the company, and we would basically also like to have them for all of the members of the team. We need to talk a little bit how to structure it. But what it is if you leave the company because you decide either you're completely, we have to throw you out because you are completely crazy, or you decide, I don't want to do this anymore. So you abandon the ship. What that means is that we get to buy back the shares of the person leaving at a fraction of the, it's going to be nothing. So we can basically take his shares or her shares as such. So this is again, this is one of the ways, because you're not putting money in, that we're trying to put your hand on the boilerplate, saying, if you suddenly decide after 1 year that I'm not doing this here anymore because these are idiots, fair enough, you leave, but then you don't have shares anymore.
Yeah, I think it boils down to we need to discuss which terms are a bad lever and a good lever.
Yes.
We cannot have it in general, obviously, I think. So that would be uncomfortable for us. But we can probably agree on scenarios that are not desirable. And we do not foresee which we can say as bad levers.
We can see it also from the point of the founders being a group of 4.
Yeah.
And if someone sort of abandons ship in an untimely manner, we would agree to that going back to the company, not to the investors, but to the company. But we again think that people, they have invested 5 years of their life into this, so this is something that should not go on forever, and it should also be linked to some actual breach of a performance duty. If
But I think we can work with a standard good bad lever type term. I would though say if it goes back to the company, it should go into the option pool. So it kind of like benefits the company.
Yes, but same thing.
Yeah.
But it's fine.
No, but it goes in and then becomes an option pool, so we actually can use it to speed up and try to repair if we need to recruit somebody else.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay. What's left, guys?
You wanted in section 6, you have an aggressive time plan. We like that.
Yeah.
But in section 6, you want to have exclusivity in your dealings with us until the end of February.
Yes.
That's a long time.
Yeah, but guys, if we're going to do this, there's got to be trust, right? I can't have you negotiating to 3 other parties as such. And again, this is very standard. But let's do it. Let's say we have until end of January to negotiate it finished, and then if not, we can both of us ask if we're needing something, we will ask for a prolongment.
Okay.
But I want exclusivity in that period.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
The cost of this. Do you use very expensive lawyers and?
I use a guy called Søren Holmark. He is very expensive. No, we don't. We use Kring and Reumert, so that's doable.
But could we have some sort of limit of those costs, because the money you're investing in the company, that should go to the company, not to lawyers. That's
fair enough. Let's agree to 100,000 kroner kind of like cap on these costs and to be borne by the company as such. But we still want to have we want to in some kind, if you jump ship at the end here suddenly, if we are in the process of actually doing due diligence and everything, and you suddenly decide you want to do this, not want to do this for some reason, there gotta be a penalty of some kind. It shouldn't be a freebie, because at the end of the day, we will have to put up the money for the lawyers, for the due diligence, hire some experts to talk to you and stuff like that. So this bit will be on our tab. If you jump, we need some kind of you pay that personally.
But still, we will have costs of our own, and we can agree if it's just because we've sort of played you for a fool, it would be fair to share your costs. But if you are sort of not interested and try to find some reason for saying, oh, you did this and you did that, then it will not be fair for us to pay all these heavy costs.
No, but we suggest that the investor shall be entitled to reimbursement by the founders for 50% of our cost as such. And if we cap those to 100,000, your liability is 50,000 kroner.
Plus our own expenses.
I think 25, let's say that.
Okay, 25. Deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
And should it come to a dispute, you would want to go to arbitration?
Yeah, but John, again, arbitration is quick, it's clean. There's not.
It's expensive.
It do cost something, but it also costs to have lawyers in the court and so on.
Yeah. We'd feel more comfortable going to the courts.
Okay. This was a point I would probably fight a little more, but we're short of time, so I'll agree to this tonight. Yeah.
We can 1-1.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think that took us through the term sheet. There were some other details, but these were the key issues. So
we look forward to the next one and the money.
We do the same.
I'd like to say that I've done a lot of these term sheet battles all over the place, and I don't think I've ever seen one better than tonight. So I think we need to give these guys applause. They've done an amazing job. And there's a reason why sometimes I do jump in and try to add a commentary here and there, but tonight that really wasn't necessary. And now is a good time to have a Q&A. There's probably in this case we did create a glossary that was Monica's idea, I think it was, and there's a lot of technical terms. Now would be a good time to ask questions if anyone has questions. Come on, there's got to be a question. Anyone more? Okay, go ahead.
I have a question from all the three of you point of view. From the founder's side, was this aggressive or was this standard or the opposite of aggressive? Like digging into the term sheet, disagreeing with the investor or so on?
I think the biggest hurdle for us thing to swallow here is actually that we're sort of losing control here. Yeah. So I think mentally there's an issue with the team to discuss. If we do a deal like this, it's basically the people that bring the money that's controlling the company. So
I would say, is it aggressive? No, but these at least for the ones I've done, you're not aggressive like that. You can have situations where you kind of like go loggerhead with each other because nobody wants to budge. What you do is you normally shelve it, and then you kind of like try to go through and deal with everything until you have a few outstanding issues. And it's really about that. I want to make this deal. These guys want to make this deal, so we got to find a common ground where we can work together. Another important thing is, and I would just argue this for all of you, it is very, very important that you have your own lawyer at your side when you do this. Do not think that you can do it on your own. We showed you a couple of cases here where, for example, that I get 3 times my money back, even though it doesn't look like that, but when you do the math and so on, there's a lot of pitfalls like that. But also, lawyers are good because you can use lawyers to take the battles. So Jes and I do maybe not have to go loggerhead with each other on an issue, but I can let my lawyer go loggerhead with Søren, and then they can fight it out. And then we can be the mediating force after saying, but maybe we could, once they taken the battle, we can come back in and be in the backhand and make the suggestion of how do we make the compromise. So that's a good method to use therefore. So therefore, it's a good idea to have your own lawyer with you because you have to work with the guys afterwards. Remember, everybody is trying to make this happen. So it's about giving and taking in that process. Yeah. There was someone had their hands up?
Same question to all of you. Going into this discussion, what are your key focus or must-win battle? Like, what do you not want to lose, or what do you want to go really far to keep?
I think a key issue is for the founders to have the ability to be able to attract other investors. So, of course, it's a relationship of trust and confidence with the investor you choose or group of investors, but if you want the ability to be able to have a market price on becoming an investor in your company, you need the freedom to be able to attract other investors. So that's a key issue, and another issue was the tag along. So you have the ability to take part in an exit. And I guess the third important issue for a founder is not to get shortchanged too many times in all these various topics where there's pitfalls.
Lars?
I was only coming back to, Jes was actually at some point coming into this personal liability thing, which was pretty serious. I'm just sitting surrounded by small ICT startups all day long, and there's a lot of discussion of bad leaver, good leaver thing, which is probably a little bit different from this situation where it's a long research coming into a business now.
Yeah, to me it was actually new. I think we took some term sheets that had some general terms, but we didn't have it. I remember when we negotiated.
No, so. But I can say from my, I have venture investors in my company. I have a bad leaver clause, good leaver clause as such, and so do all the key people in the company. And we've actually had to exercise one of those because one key person kind of left. We then negotiated something that made it tolerable for everybody, but it happens. We've had examples, and Jes can attest to this, that suddenly somebody does something stupid. And I don't think he lost his shares in that.
No, I would say how would I put it? I think it would actually have been good if we had those clauses, both from the investor at our side, but also the founding team, because there was a lever that wasn't a good one.
And especially, as Søren pointed out, the rest of the team who sits back there, they're 4 guys. One of them says, "Excuse me, but I'm not party to this. I don't want to be at this party anymore. But I still want to have my cookie when I walk out the door." That's not fair to these guys either, who leave behind. So I think that a good leaver, bad leaver clause is actually a good thing to have in there. It has to be structured right, so it's not unreasonable. But sometimes things happen where people go bananas, and you have to be able to deal with that. Yeah.
One other area that's related. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say the non-compete. Different jurisdictions have different laws regarding non-competes and whether they're enforceable. And there was something in this term sheet about the non-compete extending from the date of ownership in the company. And I guess I would put it back to you guys. Is that common here, that it's tied to ownership and not service to the company?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It is.
It's very, very common. Yeah. There was a question up there?
Yeah. Your view on milestones from 2 perspectives. One perspective solely, do you think they're useful and when and how to that's maybe more technical. How do you see that in the Danish space, the market practice?
I can say, from an investor's point of view, milestones are good because they kind of like define when you need to put in the money and something is happening. It puts a focus on what's happening in the company. It comes a little bit back to this where I was a bit provocative of saying this is not just another part of the university where you can go around and do interesting research. It actually has a focus on getting a product to the market, and that's what we're focused on. But as an investor coming out into this here, what if we not reach the milestone? I can either, what investors will then have is a terminate decision. Are we going to put good money after bad money? Do we believe as much in the team that they will be able to overcome this year? And it comes very, very fast. If you miss your first and second milestone or the first milestone, a lot of venture guys will have a terminate discussion internally to say, okay, do we believe in this team? The truth is, it's not about the invention. It's about the team executing it. And Ventures has this saying, we would much rather have a 100% team and a shitty idea than the other way around. Because it's all about execution and getting a product to the market.
Yeah, I think we commented on it slightly that there's this maybe overestimate of own ambitions on the technical side. So I think it is dangerous to put the technical milestones in. I think they are needed to create the focus, but you do need to be careful on those. And the founding team sometimes are over ambitious. I was myself when we started out. So
yeah.
2 points. You discussed about a CEO position later on, like after 3 years or so, and having a CEO and giving that CEO a share of the company. In what scale could that share be? Say it's a senior CEO that you need to hire to bring the product to market, say in your case cosmetics or so. So a senior CEO.
At that point, I don't think you would get in for less than 10%. Probably more.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I was thinking different numbers.
Yeah, but it will come down to again, why are you giving this guy shares? You're giving guys shares for 2 reasons. 1, you want his interest to be aligned with the company. That's one part. 2, you don't have enough money to pay him, right? I can give you an example from my own company. We were out looking for a US-based citizen to be the sales and the marketing director of the company, because we decided we wanted to start out by launching on the world's biggest market, which is the North American market. And therefore we took the consequence and said, okay, we need somebody who understands that marketplace. You cannot get a Danish guy who thinks he understands the US marketplace. So we hired a headhunter in New York, and he came up with a lot of different suspects to be interviewed. One of them he came up with was a guy called Robert DiMarzio. Robert had just been kicked out of Pfizer Animal Health, which is the world's global, the biggest global animal health company. Has a turnover, I think about at that point, about $1.5 billion or something like that. They're about $5 billion now. And we met with this guy, and he was, we were thinking he could maybe fill a board position. He was interested in doing something completely different. Well, it turned out he wanted to have a change of scene. He wanted to do something completely different, let his hair down, So he actually came up with us and said, could you guys be interested in having me? It's going to be for maybe 2 years as your vice president sales and marketing. And we said yes. Now the problem was I could not pay him what he was used to. So what we did was I paid him the same salary as I got. We thought that was fair. And then we gave him 1 million stocks in the company. And he then invested for $500,000 of his own money.
But I think that's the superstar you're describing there.
Yeah,
I think we had an option pool of 10% we discussed.
Yeah.
So those 10% should be for the CEO, for some key employees over maybe a time frame of 3 to 5 years. Yes. So I would think it's on the order of 2% or the CEO.
But I don't think you get a really, really good guy for 2% of the company.
No, but the difficulty with incentive schemes, with stock options, is that the receiver often believes it's not really very much if he just gets 0.25%. And the owners of the company, the management, having a pool of 10%, knowing that they shall use this over 3 to 5 years. They can see that if they give half of it away immediately, they have nothing for the others. So it's just sort of a built-in difficulty with these schemes, that the receivers, they think it's not very much, and those who give it, they think it's a lot.
What we did in that aspect to this, we actually asked Robert to invest his own money in the company. So he invested 500,000 Danish kroner into the company and got shares for that. And then we gave him an option for some more shares, which were vesting over 3 years. So if he were there for 3 years and so on, he would have the possibility to buy shares at a really reasonable price at that point. So he thought that was a great deal for him, and he could live with that. So, but you have to be creative to make that happen.
Not a lot about termination of the company if it doesn't fly. You mentioned the 5 or 7 years you have discussion. But what if it's earlier, that this is not flying, or patent comes in and you want out, you want to realize your loss?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, you have to just acknowledge that you put in the money and walk away. You could say that you wanted the IP or something like that. There would be deals about it. But then again, you have a complicated situation with the university, who has some interest in trying to keep some hook into the IP so it doesn't just sail off. I would just say, if it doesn't fly, you would know that after a year and a half, something like that. Okay, we put in at that point 5 million Danish kroner, 4.5 million Danish kroner. Yeah.
But I think it's a very good point. Yeah. It ties to what you said, Ole. It's a lot about the team. It could be a good idea, but a poor team. Yeah. And we haven't solved it yet at university, but one way actually to bring out these companies and handling that risk is to keep the patent within the company, within the university, and then do a license agreement. So let's say that the team is not performing, then you actually are not losing the rights. The university still has the possibility for that. So you can say that's outside the investors, but it's something that's actually important.
I can just say from the investor side, the problem with the university is that universities do never take any liability whatsoever. So let's say we put this here and they, excuse my language, make a mess out of the patent. You up there. So for venture side, there has to be some point where they have influence on what happens on the patent, the prosecution of it, all these kind of things, because that's very important, and that it passes to the company. Because in a sales situation, it's really demoting the value that you don't own the patent, but it is at the university and you only have a license for it.
Yeah, we put that sort of the background. It would flow to the company if it's successful, and there's some triggers to that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to let Monica bring us home here. Before we do that, though, I also wanted to acknowledge Georgie, who's a magician at this, and hopefully we'll be able to produce a video product. There's another person in Seattle, Tim Ria, with New Media Synergy, that's put a lot of effort into it behind the scenes, and so to the extent you see stuff on Twitter or the like, that's Tim. Again, thank you, Monica, for organizing this, and I know you want to say a few things here.
Not really. There is cold beer waiting outside.
That's an important thing.
Yeah, and pizzas.
I wish that all lessons at my school looked like this, and I hope that one day some of you will be able to conclude that these 2 hours spent in this room today, they saved you your millions. So please, let's go all together to the canteen, to the most cozy corner, and have some pizza with double cheese, cold beer, and lovely cakes. Thank you very much.